Back in 2017, you needed around 24 Bitcoin to buy the average house. By 2021, it was down to just 9, and today, in 2025, the same house costs about 3 Bitcoin. The trend is clear. Houses are getting cheaper in Bitcoin terms, and that raises a powerful question. Could 1 Bitcoin soon buy you an entire house? Welcome back, I'm Alpinehodler, and in this video, we'll explore what this shift really means. For Bitcoin, for real estate, and for your financial future. For most of our lives, we've measured everything in dollars or euros. That's just the way we've been trained. But here's the problem. Fiat currencies inflate endlessly. They lose purchasing power year after year, while prices for goods and assets march higher. Bitcoin changes that picture completely, because when you measure houses in Bitcoin, the numbers don't inflate, they deflate. The average house doesn't require more Bitcoin over time, it requires fewer. That's not magic. That's simply what happens when hard money competes with soft money. Let's take a closer look at the numbers. In 2017, the average home in the United States cost about $240,000. At the time, Bitcoin was trading around $10,000. So one house equaled 24 Bitcoin. By 2021, the average home price had climbed to around $300,000, but Bitcoin had exploded to roughly $60,000. That same house now cost only 9 Bitcoin, and here in 2025, home prices are near $350,000, yet Bitcoin has crossed $120,000, meaning the average house costs just 3 Bitcoin. Notice what happened here. In dollars, homes became more expensive, but in Bitcoin, homes became cheaper. That is the essence of adoption. Why does this happen? Because fiat currencies are designed to lose value. Governments have no choice but to print more money, to cover debts, to fund deficits, to keep the system alive. Real estate is a scarce physical good. It tends to rise in fiat terms, simply because fiat is always inflating. Bitcoin flips the script. With its fixed supply of 21 million, enforced by code and protected by miners worldwide, Bitcoin grows scarcer relative to everything else. So when you compare the two, houses versus Bitcoin, houses look cheaper over time, not because real estate is collapsing, but because Bitcoin is simply harder money. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger forces shaping this. First, institutional adoption. We now have Bitcoin ETFs, corporate treasuries holding Bitcoin, pension funds studying allocation, and even banks offering custody. Second, the global fiat crisis. Sovereign debt is exploding, central banks are trapped. Every time the system wobbles, more money is printed. And third, the simple liquidity cycle. In good times or bad, governments always find a reason to inject more currency. These three forces together create the perfect storm, weakening fiat, strengthening Bitcoin, and a relentless divergence between the two. That's why in the coming decade, the idea of 1 Bitcoin buying you a house is not just possible, it's probable. And it's not only about houses. Cars, healthcare, education, land. When you measure them in Bitcoin, they're all deflating. The house is simply the symbol because it's the biggest purchase most people ever make. But the principle applies everywhere. The longer you hold Bitcoin, the more of the real world it buys you. Think about the psychological shift this creates. If you'd told someone back in 2013 that 1 Bitcoin could buy half a house, they would have laughed you out of the room. If you tell someone in 2025 that 1 Bitcoin might buy an entire house by 2030, they will laugh again, until it happens. Every cycle, Bitcoin humbles the skeptics and rewards the patient. Now, can real estate compete? On the surface, houses seem like the ultimate form of hard money. They're physical, they're scarce, they can't be conjured out of thin air. But real estate supply does grow. New houses are built every year. Bitcoin supply does not grow beyond 21 million, ever. And real estate comes with burdens, property taxes, maintenance, repairs, insurance, location risks, and liquidity issues. Bitcoin? It simply asks for custody and time. That's why, as strange as it sounds, Bitcoin is harder than property. So let's come back to the central question. Could 1 Bitcoin soon buy you a house? At $1 million per coin, the answer is yes. At $10 million per coin, 1 Bitcoin could buy you not just a house, but a luxury home. The time frame is uncertain, but the direction is visible. Not investment advice, of course, but probability is firmly on the side of scarcity. Now, let me share my own approach. It's simple. It's boring. And that's why it works. I dollar cost average into Bitcoin, no matter what the headlines say. I self-custody my coins because if you don't hold your keys, you don't hold your Bitcoin. And I prepare for both volatility and opportunity, knowing that both will always come. If Bitcoin hits $10 million, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, I still own an asset that I believe will outperform fiat currencies over decades. The lesson is this: in fiat terms, houses are drifting further and further out of reach. In Bitcoin terms, houses are becoming cheaper every cycle. And honestly, that's not because homes are losing value, it's because Bitcoin is finally rising to its destiny as the hardest money humanity has ever known. So could one Bitcoin soon buy you a house? History suggests the answer is yes. The only question is, will you own one before that day comes? If you found this useful, subscribe for more Alpinehodler insights. Until next time, stack wisely, stay humble, and think in decades.